Using fully automated tools for SQL injections. Well, there are certain cases when you have to test an application which has thousands and thousands of pages. Even semi-automated tools cannot work for you. In those cases, you may want to run some fully automated tools just like SQL Map. You can go to sqlmap.org and download the zip file. Once you have the file, extract it to any location you want. In my case, I have extracted this file on my C drive directly. Here you can see a folder SQL Map, and there are all the files which you get in this zip which you just downloaded. Now just go ahead, open the command prompt or a terminal in case of Unix in the same folder, and now you can just type python sqlmap.py. Since I am using Python command, make sure Python is already installed in your system. If not, go on Google, download Python and install that. You can even do that from Microsoft Store in case of Windows. So I assume you can do that. Let's press enter. And you will see it loads SQL Map and then gives me an error missing mandatory options DULMRGC and all the other stuff. That's all fine. Just click enter. And now instead of SQL Map, just give it an option called -HH, which is extended help. As soon as you press that, you will see a lot of options which you can use in SQL Map to do fully automated SQL injections. The first one which you need to understand is, of course, the URL. There are a lot of options, right? Here you go, -u-URL to give a specific target. Then the second which you need to understand, a minimum one, is the risk level. Here you see the level of tests to perform, 1 to 5, and default is 1. When you want to do complete testing, you would use the level 5, not level 1. The reason of having these levels is that maybe we just want to test something in a low level and we have a low bandwidth on our database. So if we use all the tests, we may crash the database. Same thing applies to risk. When you want to keep the risk of crashing the database, corrupting the tables, and even getting caught while doing a pen test, you don't want to do all of that, keep it on 1. However, you can increase it on 3 if it is a crystal ball test, just like we are doing right now. There are many other options. You can even choose the technique, which is -- technique, and you can choose between all the techniques like a Boolean based injection, error based injection, union based injection, etc., etc. Other options are also here. You can extract data if you want using database, table, column, user to select the things, and --dbs, --tables, --columns, and dump to extract the data. Let me show you an example here in practice. So I'll go ahead and use -u http localhost/login.php, and I'll give it a risk rating of 3 and level as 5. Let's press enter. Now you can see you have not declared cookies while server wants to set its own cookie, this one. So do you want to continue? Yes, that's fine. We can take this cookie. Now it's testing SQL injection or based, you see, Boolean based injections are being tested first. Then once it is done with Boolean, it'll start with some other tests like from union based. So it's going to do all the testing for us automatically. Now it's testing if the MySQL is less than this, more than this, using Boolean, and PostgreSQL. So it's testing the version of the database right now. It's going to take some time. Let's leave it till then. And I can see it is asking us, it is recommended to perform only basic union tests if there is not at least one parameter one potential other technique found. Do you want to reduce the number of requests? Well, this is going to reduce the number of tests which we are doing by reducing the number of level. And in this case, I'm going to allow this because I don't want to wait for such a long time when I know there is an SQL injection. In a real life situation, you may not want to allow this and reduce the number of your tests. Now you can see SQL map ends up with an error saying nothing is injectable. It was not able to find any SQL injections with our current setup. Well, that is fine, it happens. There are many things which you can do to fix it. You can provide it with the fields to inject. So if I show you the help again, you will see there are certain fields which you can inject by putting --data. So let me see where they are. Here you go, --data. You can tell it that go ahead and inject it in this specific field by selecting --data. This can be complicated for some people who do not know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, because you will have to find which field are we injecting the data in. In our case, we are injecting the data in these fields, username and password. But you need to know the name of these fields. So you may have to inspect the element and you may have to find that in this HTML, or you may want to intercept the request and find it there. An easy version will be just use Burp Suite. Go ahead and start a temporary project. Open your proxy, start your browser, go to localhost, go to login, and here go ahead and give it something like Sagar1. Login. I don't need the browser now. I will go to HTTP history or in the target, and I'll take this request, send it to repeater, and I'll just clean this request a little bit because these characters may cause problems. So this is login.php request, which is taking two parameters, this one and this one. Instead of these parameters, press a asterisk sign. Now once you add this asterisk sign, this is called SQL map payload marking. Now I can just save this to a file. I'll save it in my C drive, in my SQL map, the same directory where I'm running it. I'll save it, for example, any name like request.txt. I'll just say save. I'll close the Burp Suite, I don't need it now. And if you go ahead and run this time, instead of giving it a URL, you can specify the request file you created by -r request.txt. And you can go ahead and give it the levels and risk. Let's go with the default this time because that will be faster. And it'll say custom injection marker found. Do you want to process it? Of course, that's why we created it. And it says redirecting to this. Do you want to do that? Yes, we want to use HTTP localhost perd at login.php. Yes, that's what we are testing. The result is a post request. Do you want to resend the original post data in the new location? Yes, we want to send the original data in this new location, which is login.php. Okay, it looks like the backend database is MySQL. Wow, you just found that, right? Do you want to skip testing payloads for specific other databases? Of course, we don't want to test others because if it is MySQL, then yes, let's just test for MySQL. For the remaining tests, do you want to include all the tests for MySQL, extending the level 1 and the risk 1? Well, you can do that. In this case, I'm skipping it to make sure we complete this lecture on time. Let's see if it gets us the result this time. I can see over here, custom post parameter number 1. So the number 1 marker which we put in the username, it is testing that right now. And it says, post parameter number 1 is vulnerable. Do you want to keep testing others? In the real life situation you can test it, and the second parameter is also vulnerable in our case, but I'm going to skip it right now because I found a vulnerable parameter, so that's all good. Now these were the payloads that it has used. For number 1, you can see username and then a single quotes and then select something 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 where something subselect something from subselect count. It's a long payload. I don't think I would be ever able to write this kind of complex payload from my hand, and that's where the automated SQL injections really stands out. You can copy this as it is and take it and find whatever data you want in the real website, or you can use SQL map to do that work for you as well. So this time I'll say, you know what, find me the databases, DBS. It'll find me the databases this time. And it says, do you want to use the marker? Yes, I want to use the marker. And we gotta redirect, that's fine. Yes, use the data. And now it'll just give me the databases because it knows that the first parameter is vulnerable. It has already saved all the data, and here are all the databases. I can find, let's say, I can select the database SBVA and I can find the tables. Again, yes, yes, yes. And you see we got the tables, and these are the payloads that it is using. Starting from here, ending here. Again, super complex stuff. I cannot write that. Now, let's select the table. Let's say login. And let's say, you can find the columns, but I'll just dump it as it is. So yes, yes, yes. And here you go, we just dumped the whole table as it is. Instead of finding one column at a time, I dumped the whole table. If you want to find the columns also, you could have done that by pushing dash dash columns. And then it'll just, go ahead and find each column for you. Okay, invalid character, columns. Here we go. Now it finds the columns, and you can select a column and dump that. So, really depends, like dash C and, like ID and dash dash dump. So in this case, it'll only dump the column, or you can just dump the whole table by just ignoring this columns thing and just say dump over here itself. So it really depends, if the table is too big, you may want to do column wise. And here, this will only dump the first column, as I said. But again, you can always dump the whole table. No need to dump column wise if you know that the table is small. So that is how you use SQL map to do automated SQL injections.